Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. As per the present Supreme Court order, which was passed about 5 days ago, moratorium in India continues till 28th of September, and thereafter, if there is no change in the present order, then reality stares in the face of India's COVID-stressed borrowers. With their cash flow and savings having been considerably depleted and diminished in the past 6 months of lockdown, many borrowers are going to be unable to repay their loans. They will be unable to service their loans. But then, the fate of borrowers who are not able to repay their loans is going to differ on a case to case basis. Those borrowers whose units, whose businesses are viable and who are able to meet the financial parameters set up by the KV Kamath committee, they will perhaps see a situation where their loans have got restructured, thus effectively giving them additional time to repay their loans and avoid the tag of being a defaulter. But those whose businesses are not found to be viable and who are unable to meet the parameters of the KV Kamath committee, those are going to be told by the bankers that we cannot restructure your loans, please pay up your loans immediately. In that again, there will be two categories. One category of those borrowers whose restructuring is not going to take place, they might just sell their family gold and silver in order to repay their bank loans and not be tagged as a defaulter. But then there are many who are going to face a dire strait, a dire situation. They might have no fallback option in order to raise resources and repay their loans. And those are going to be in a defaulting situation. They will be the defaulters and they will face recovery proceedings initiated by the lenders. But then in the matter of recovery proceedings also, there is an institutionalized discrimination in India as we call it. Recovery action also differs from case to case basis. In the case of small, hapless borrowers, they are subjected to what we call criminal illegal recovery proceedings consisting of threat, intimidation, harassment, blackmail and coercion. They are subjected to the most coercive proceedings possible, violating the rule of the law by those very recovery agents which have been appointed by the lenders in order to recover their loans. On the other hand, the big ones are a privileged lot. Unlike in the case of the small borrowers who are mercilessly hounded by the recovery agents appointed by the lenders in an extremely criminal and illegal manner in order to recover the loans due by them, unlike them, the big ones are a very privileged lot. They get no such recovery calls. They are not subjected to that kind of coercion and harassment that a small borrower faces, even though they probably owe thousands of crores to the lending system, unlike a small borrower who may be just owing a few lakhs or a few millions to the lending system. As we said, the big borrowers are a privileged lot. They get no recovery calls, and at the most, they are taken to the courts in a very decent and civil manner by the lenders as per the law and not by infringing the law, which we witness in the case of the small borrowers. That explains why, in the case of Jet Airways, for example, Naresh Goyal has given personal guarantees in respect of loans worth 11,000 crores given by the lenders to Jet Airways. By virtue of the personal guarantee, Naresh Goyal is now personally liable to the system. But despite that, he has not got the kind of recovery calls that the small borrowers receive. He may not even have been contacted by the lenders to start repaying the loans in the way he ought to be asked. That has also been the case of promoters of companies like Bhushan Steel, SR Steel, Alok Industries, JP Group, Amtech Auto, etc., where the promoters have given personal guarantees. They now owe money to the lenders in respect of defaults committed by their borrowing companies, but they are not subjected to the kind of recovery that a small borrower is subjected. And a call to these high and mighty from a recovery agent is a far cry. Nobody dare do that. Nobody dare have the guts to give them calls personally, even though they owe money to the system personally by virtue of their personal guarantees. The only person who got singled out in this case has been Vijay Mallya, and we know the reasons why Mallya has got singled out. No other this kind of a borrower who has given personal guarantees has been hounded for recovery of loans. These privileged defaulters are therefore not even taken to the DRT or to the NCLT or to the criminal courts in cases where they deserve to be taken, and no personal coercive action gets started against them. Let's take the case of Anil Ambani. In the year 2016, State Bank of India lent 1200 crores to one of his companies called Reliance Infratel. It was a loan of 1200 crores given, and it was, among others, secured by the personal guarantee given by Mr. Anil Ambani. The company defaulted on the loans and SBI demanded its repayment. Among other things, it asked Mr. Ambani to repay the loans for the simple reason that he had given a personal guarantee. Mr. Ambani says that those loans were not taken by him for his personal purposes. They were not personal loans, he says, and therefore he is not liable to repay these loans. SBI has gone to the Supreme Court asking that Mr. Ambani should be asked to honor the personal guarantee given by him. But these are rare cases. We do not see many of them happening, and in all the case, you can expect the borrower blatantly denying his liability. We saw that happening in the case of Reliance, where in RCOM, the company took $717 million worth of loans from Chinese banks, and when they invoked the personal guarantee given by Mr. Anil Ambani, he even denied that this kind of a loan has been given. The point is that these large borrowers, that these persons who owe such huge amounts to the system, they do not get hounded. They are taken to courts in a very civil and nice manner, and they do not face the kind of harassment, intimidation, threats and coercion that a small borrower faces. So experience says that it is a small defaulter borrower who is subjected to all kinds of criminal and illegal measures of recovery by the recovery agents appointed by the lenders. But these recovery agents dare not call the big defaulters against whom action should truly be taken. The big ones go scot-free and they receive no such recovery call that the small ones are subjected to. My colleague Sujit Nair took up this issue of a small borrower getting intimidating, threatening calls from the recovering agents in his show yesterday. The fact is that this is a common phenomena. It is a burning issue, and it is going to aggravate even further as the defaults in the system go up because of the COVID crisis. The Reserve Bank of India itself very often receives complaints of this kind of coercion being initiated by the recovery agents, and the RBI guidelines do not permit this kind of an action. The Reserve Bank has issued a very stringent code of conduct that needs to be followed by the lenders and the recovery agents, and that is to ensure that illegal recovery action, illegal coercion, threats, intimidation, harassment, blackmail doesn't take place of the borrowers concerned. What does the Reserve Bank Code of Conduct say? The Reserve Bank says that even if a lender has outsourced the recovery function to an agent, despite that, the responsibility of the lender does not diminish. It is the lender who is ultimately responsible to ensure that the conduct of the recovery agent is as per the law. He does not violate the law. He does not indulge in any kind of criminal recovery actions. The liability ultimately rests with the lender only, not with the recovery agent. The RBI further says that the recovery agent cannot intimidate or harass a borrower, his family, friends, or his referees in any kind of a verbal or physical manner. Intimidation, according to RBI, includes any kind of public humiliation or blackmailing of the borrower. It includes any attempt to intrude the privacy of the borrower concerned, and also threats, anonymous calls, or any misleading representation made by the recovery agent to the borrower. Therefore, if any kind of threatening calls are made, any kind of intimidation is resorted to, it actually violates the code of conduct set up by the RBI in this regard. The Reserve Bank guidelines further say that every lender must have a grievance redressal mechanism in this regard, and a grievance redressal officer who should be a senior officer must be appointed in order to look into complaints of harassment by the recovery agents. The fact of the matter is that despite all this, threats continue, intimidation continues, harassment continues, blackmailing continues, misuse of confidential information of the borrower continues. This certainly needs to stop, but it has not stopped. It has of late increased. With the number of digital lending platforms that have come up, the Reserve Bank is now noticing that these kind of recovery measures which are clearly illegal have gone even more rampant. It is time that the government gets seized of this, and it is time that some kind of a law is passed such that in case a borrower is subjected to this kind of an action, an FIR should be registered by the cops and action should be taken, provided of course that the cops are interested in doing that. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it, and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, well, subscribe to our YouTube channel.